What's up, guys?
Much has been debated about this over the years. What is the greatest decade of music? I mean, it is one of those things that by generation, every generation swears that their generation had the best music. Every generation swears that, when they were growing up, that was the best music there was. But what do you think is the best decade? I mean, as I'm looking right here, the 70s were great. I mean, you had so much good music. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Queen. Their heyday was in the 70s. Stevie Wonder. I mean, you had Fleetwood Mac, the Eagles, Elton John. I mean, the 70s are, like, honestly, probably tough to beat. When you think about it, I'm just gonna hit shuffle on this 70s playlist, and I guarantee you whatever song it pops up is gonna be good. I mean, Come and Get Your Love by Redbone. Like, that's just a great song. Like, you can click on any song in the 70s. But we can't be in here sleeping on the 80s either, because I think the 80s were good for different reasons. I mean, maybe not as many big name artists, but like I feel like there were some great one hit wonders in the 80s. Let me hit shuffle on the 80s and just see. Yeah, All Night Long by Lionel Richie. Like, that's just a great song. So, like, the 70s and 80s were great. My decade was the 90s when I was born, and that was just a different type of era. You had the Backstreet Boys, you had NSYNC, you had Britney Spears, you had people like that coming along. I feel like the 90s were a great era for country music. A lot of great country music come out of that, but I could be biased. What do you guys think is the greatest decade of music? A lot of people, these more recent decades, they don't care as much for, like the 2010s and the 2000s. Not a lot of people care about those. I tend to like those because I was, a teenager and early 20s and stuff like that. So some of that music is more sentimental for me. But honestly, and then of course you go way back to the 60s, 50s. You got Elvis, you got the Beatles. I mean, the Beatles really automatically, them alone, would make the 60s one of the greatest decades for music. What do you think overall? For me, I would probably have to put the 70s up against just about any decade. I mean, there's something great from every decade musically, but I would have to say the 1970s probably would take it. But there's so much good from the 80s. I mean, there's so much that I love from every decade. But really, when you look at the 70s, like I got this 70s playlist, you go through it. I mean, Rocket Man, Superstition, Best of My Love, Play That Funky Music, Don't Stop Till You Get Enough. Michael Jackson, it was, the 80s probably were his peak, but he was putting out great stuff in the 70s. Boogie Shoes, Love Train, Fat Bottom Girls, Joy to the World, Three Dog Night, Tiny Dancer, Isn't She Lovely, Somebody to Love, Signed, Sealed, Delivered, Landslide. I mean, there's just so much great music from the 70s. Let me know what you think. What do you think is the greatest decade of music ever? I would love to hear from you in the comments. This is the type of stuff I love to debate. And if you like a certain decade or era of music, let me know why in the comments below. Take it in, soak it up. Bye.